Hello everyone. So in the last video we had the oil pumping finally, which was a huge success. I was very happy to see that. That means we did it right. And now we're left with the last process that is part of the new update, which is the oil distillation. So come along as we try to distill the oil. Now we'll be using, just make sure, so I do have a drill rod in there currently, and I want to make sure that it's not clamped to anything. Nope. So we can go ahead and work on our structure. What we're going to be using is the old filter. So the old filter had all these nice features that let us select what type of thing we want to distill through the distillation process, which is just much nicer. So I'm getting that from what I just guessed based on the graphic that I showed in my explanation video of how an oil rig works. We may have 4 different types of things. One of them may be only for the jet fuel, so in that case we turn everything else off. One will be for only the diesel fuel, so in that case we turn everything else off. I guess there's also the crude oil, which is the raw oil component, and I'm not 100% sure, but there may be slurry coming out. Now whether it's saturated slurry or regular slurry, I don't know, but that may be also being pumped out, because in theory, in real life, if you're pumping slurry into the well and we're losing water from this process, so slurry's coming back, the saturated slurry is coming back, we're losing water, so we may have, I would be guessing it'd be the saturated slurry coming out of the wellhead. So these 4 things, or 4 components, are what we want to distill. Obviously the slurry we can't really use for anything, so I may just spill it out if it is collecting that. Otherwise the jet fuel and diesel obviously we can use, and crude oil is kind of the base product which you can sell if you don't want to have the jet or diesel fuel. So that said, I'll just leave these here for now. So that said, let's attempt to distill it. Now what I don't know the heights that it takes, and even now there's not a lot of information, and frankly I'm trying to not watch too many videos on YouTube of other people, because I want to see the process for myself, and I want to maybe come up with a different solution than others. So I have no idea how tall this is, or how tall we need to make it, but let's just assume quite tall for now, and we'll have to have pumps working to pump up this tower. Now the design that I'm going to follow actually is probably going to have the regular oil in this area down here. So maybe I take off these windows, because that's going to define where where the mixture is, whatever comes in here is. So this is, call it the undistilled product, is in the bottom here. Now this is still pretty big for undistilled, but whatever. Maybe we need bigger. Like, again, I don't really have much of a feeling for the numbers yet. And I'll just take a cross section of this. There's no need for this right now, for this wall. Okay. So if that's our regular product, and I mean, even it could be in here technically, but regardless, we'll need the distillation, and we'll need the heater. Now let's see if for the electric furnace, which is the simplest one. Realistically, the electric furnace is all we really need, because we're not I mean, to not have to get into like a firebox or a diesel furnace that needs the diesel, like a diesel generator. Oh, rather it's diesel in, it's not actually a generator, it's literally burning the diesel. I see. Ignition, diesel level temperature, so it's using diesel as its source, whereas this is using electricity. So if we had a diesel one, that's technically the most efficient if we're producing our own diesel and then just burning it. But let's try the electric furnace for now, just for the ease of things and to not have to have too much other stuff. So if we jump to the Stormworks description, the way they describe it here is the refining process. So once you have extracted your oil, you can refine it in a tall custom tank with distillation. Heat the oil using a coal burner or the new diesel burner or electric heater to 300 degrees and the oil will start to separate. It can be extracted using the distillation taps, which condense jet fuel or diesel depending on their height in the column. Okay, so that gives us everything we need to know. 300 degrees, and we're getting jet fuel and diesel. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward, or at least it sounds straightforward. Now whether it actually is in practice, that's something else. So I don't know if by putting this thing like that in this kind of compartment, if that's ideal, like if that's how it wants us to heat the oil, or yeah, how to heat the raw product. So, and I guess in theory we don't really need this. We could just heat the whole thing. I don't know. Let's try to just have this whole thing be our distillation chamber, and then here is where we're gonna have a tap for the different products. So it's based on height. I don't know, and also I don't know if we have to have this whole massive thing full to the top, to the brim, or if we're only having it full, like if it's full to the brim with oil, or if we just have anything in here, like a small level of it, can we then separate it? The way it works in practice is that you'd have presumably the whole thing full, because and then within that whole thing being full, the different chemicals or the different areas start to rise within that mixture, kind of. So it would be an actual mixture of stuff that you get. But let's try the taps here. So here, let's put one of the taps. How tall is it? It said tall and it said 300 degrees. So the combination of that, and I guess this isn't ideal because it needs to actually go into separate tanks. So we still do need the separation. And I'm guessing what we can do is have this be the actual tower where it mixes, and then we have the part next to it where this oil or finished products, let's call it, mix or gather, not mix. Mix is the wrong word, where they gather. So here we have one of these things, the distillation taps. So what I would gather from the description is we need 300 degrees, and then we need either a pump or a spout to try to extract it. Let's put a pump system. So this is pumping out right here, and we'll remove the floor of this compartment, and we'll remove the top. This is going to be tall. It's going to be as tall as the actual tower that it's next to. And again, I have no idea if this tower is the right size. I'm just going with, I mean, no idea. Not even, I wouldn't even call this gut. This is just a total guess. But anyway, here we have this, and I mean, we could leave one block above it, I don't know, there. So now that would be taking something at some height outputs different fluids based on the height relative to the bottom of the compartment. Maybe that's way too tall, maybe that's way too like low. But whatever it is, actually I'm gonna say that's too tall. Let's move this up by 2 blocks, and then let's move an identical one down here somewhere like that. Let's see if this works and how that looks comparatively. Okay, so one's there and one's there. The way I would do it is then have this area mixing or collecting one type of material and the other area collecting the other type of material. I mean, most of my creations use diesel anyways, so I prefer diesel in general. But obviously some of you may want jet fuel, and also jet fuel may be more expensive to sell or whatever, so for some reason I think this is too close together. Like this one maybe has to be even further down. And maybe, just maybe, some of you guys are watching this and you guys already know the answer and you're cringing and you're like, oh man, 454 SS, why are you wasting my time with this garbage? I don't know, or I already know how this works. I don't. Maybe I'm gonna have people in the comments telling me that I should have done more research, in which case I agree, I should have. But for now, let's stick with this as a total trial, and I will start gathering product and come back with the video. I went ahead and made the tower a little narrower, so this first chamber is actually narrow, so I'm hoping it fills up faster. And then I put these here with their own individual filters. Now the filters, the way it works is that you have to heat up the lightest stuff on, and it goes to the top. So jet fuel would come out here, presumably, if the game is realistic, which so far it has been. So the top one would be jet fuel and the lower one would be diesel fuel. So diesel fuel requires 300 degrees Celsius to distill, whereas jet fuel only requires like 250 or something, so it'll rise to the surface, rise to the top, versus the heavier stuff like the waste and whatever will fall to the bottom. With that in mind, this thing's hopefully ready. Now what I need to do for sure is have a dial, this time actually connected. If you guys have been watching my videos and knowing that my process was a little flawed, I'm just going to put it right here, very obvious. I'm going to put a button for the heater. We'll have to have a coolant system, so let's install the meter first. Whatever, let's just put it in the middle for now. I'll take it to an easier spot if it truly does work. So fluid level there, and this one is here. Left one is the diesel, and the right one is the jet. Okay. That is that. This button will power my pumps as well as the heater. I'm just going to make it all in one button for now, and we'll put the heater in here, the electric furnace. I mean, maybe we could put 2 of them or 3 of them. I have absolutely no idea what is more efficient or better for the process. But let's see, we have a couple things. We have temperature in, we have coolant in, coolant out, so that's the only thing. And electric, where is electric? Unless the electric is just literal electricity, I guess. So then you only really have 2, coolant in, coolant out. Now this may catch on fire. I have no idea how this will actually work. Let's try to just use a regular old radiator. And obviously there's other ways that are probably better, like you could have the not the cooling, whereas fluid, the like this thing, heat exchanger. So like, what about a massive one of these that exchanges between the two? So air in, air out. Okay, that's, but this one, liquid. So you could have this, maybe it'll cool it down, or you could have different types of heat sinks or coolant systems. For our case right now, let's just take a plain old radiator. Like I said, the nicest place to put it would be like that. I mean, define nice. That's something. I don't know if it's nice, but regardless, let's put it here. We'll have one of our lines come in there and one will go down to the bottom. As such, and even this one, we could make it go directly into here without going anywhere else. And this one can go straight down and into that. If we rotate it, especially rotated like that, and upward, right up into there. Okay, so that forms my coolant system. Again, maybe this whole thing explodes, catches on fire, otherwise doesn't work, but we will at least know what doesn't work, and it'll bring us to the stage that does. So we'll call this one the distillation process. And give it the power it needs. These connectors can go there, and to that, and to, well, that pump didn't actually have a process at all, and technically, oh yeah, I see what I did. These are all on their own little circuit, which is actually fine. These ones could be. The other ones I would like to put on that one, or that circuit, which is really just the pump out button and this. So I'll keep it all in its own circuit. And we now need the temperature dial. So this temperature dial, and this button turns this thing on. What else? There's nothing. So let's see if this can heat up the thing enough. We're obviously gonna have to pump in some fluid, or some of the crude oil first. And I don't know if it's mixed with the slurry right now. Okay, we'll clamp this thing, we'll clamp this, we'll clamp this. When all that stuff's happy and clamped, we'll start to pump, and this should start to increase. And I kind of sped that up so there's no downtime really. I could technically speed up that actual the track as well, make the track physically just go faster, but I mean, it's going. And what do we have? Oh, I mean, you can't really see it yet. Still too low. But something's happening. Now, interesting enough, why is that one increasing? So it's saying that jet fuel is being pumped in here, which makes no sense because we haven't even turned on our heater yet. But now I've turned on the heater and we set 300 degrees. Now I haven't turned this vent on, so this whole thing may catch on fire. And we gotta see why this is increasing. But something's working. Just gotta take off these clamps, take off all this stuff so my rod doesn't get stuck, and let's go back to the drawing board. Okay. What we know is that this one for that. So the one on top there, fluid level was increasing. So we're running our pump here and we're putting allow jet fuel only. So nothing else should even be coming through, whereas this one is allow diesel. And we haven't even heated it, which is crazy. So why would it be letting things in? And then obviously this is something I have to make come on with this. Okay, at least it's on, it's already plugged in. But that's confusing. So it's letting something in up there. That, but I have the filter. So that the new filter only lets liquids or gases. So in, oh, that may be our answer. In real life also, the very top is a gas. Like you'd have to distill or release the gas out of the highest most point. I don't know if that's a thing here. We're just gonna leave our jet fuel and diesel fuel, but now that the top is no longer problematic, and now that our radiator is working properly, let's try this again. So now that's working, okay. And presumably we have to let it work for a while, but what should now happen is that only this tank should be filling and not these ones. Okay. And this is filling and filling. Do we have to let it fill the whole thing? Do we have to whatever? I don't know, but let's try this button and let's watch the temperature on this fluid heat radiator. We may need more water. Like, I guess a smart thing, it's gonna start on fire again. We're going way too high. We may need to take water from the actual process and pump it through. We're still not getting any of this, but I don't like the temperature of this. Usually car engines explode at around when this gets too high, like 100 or something. So this is for sure too much. And this is also going crazy. And so it said only 300. So you could leave it on indefinitely and it'll have all sorts of weird side effects, but you could also have it turn off and on to account for the 300. So maybe that's something I'll look into. Now, is it heating the water, like the fluid that it's, the tank that is in there? Because this is still going up, but none of these have separated yet. So I guess what I'll want to do is make that system. Otherwise, we may be wasting our time. Or, I mean, let's leave it on indefinitely. Let's see if it catches on fire. But of course, in real life, that is a huge risk that you have too high of temperatures. And at some point, this will just explode. But it's not separating. So those things there and there. So then in that case, we may actually need to have this whole thing pumped full of water, or full of the whole reservoir to be pumped full, and then at that point we could distill it. Now to speed up the process, I'm just gonna reduce the size of my tank so it fills up fast in the upward direction, because of course we already have like 3,000, almost 4,000 here, but that's a substantial amount. That's probably like 20 or 30,000. So anyway, while we're at it, I will make my little microcontroller here for the heater, because online they said 300 degrees. So we're gonna have three things that we need. And one of them is on, one of them is the actual heater, and the other one is the input of the temperature. So the temperature, this is the on button, and this is the actual like heater thing, the heater itself. So if we have the on button pressed, and if I could find my on button pressed and threshold, super simple microcontroller, if the temperature is between 0 or make it like -200, I don't know if someone's drilling up in the Arctic, or -300, whatever, very low threshold, I mean even 99999, but a high threshold of say 320. So that way, once it goes above 320, it'll shut down the heater. Now that's only the heater itself. On the internet, or on the update, they were saying heat the oil using a coal burner or this to 300 degrees and the oil will start to separate. So the temperature of the heater itself may not be the temperature of the fluid. In real life, obviously, it doesn't transfer over immediately. So what I may want to do in that case is have this temperature thermometer won't be the actual temperature of the unit. It'll be a temperature probe that I stick in there. So let's stick a temperature probe in here, and let's put that to connect to this microcontroller, because I obviously want I want the temperature of the oil to be that, not the temperature of the furnace itself. And that one is down here, so I will make another one just to monitor the temperatures to see if it is in fact the same. And I said I was gonna reduce the size or the area or the volume of this so we could start the distillation process. Now oil and or gas and stuff like in cars in this game, even if I put a pump up here, it'll physically pump it out using a pump, even if the oil level is down there, like, or sorry, gas level. If the diesel level is down here and I have a pump up here, it'll still suck it out. So I'm thinking, hoping, assuming maybe it would, but because this is a new item, it may not actually, like, it may actually require the oil to be physically above it, and in which case then I really don't know. So let's see what we can do to decrease the size of this thing. This was the best way I could think of on a short time. So down here you still have this massive area, and even this I could probably reduce by just shoving or putting another random box here just to fill up the space, and then it goes all the way to the top. So really the reservoir is only this little area here and there. Hopefully that, paired with whatever else we now know, will let us be efficient. Now this heater, or this radiator, I would like to actually make a little bit of a water tank or something, so it's not just gonna be instantly heating up too much, only because I don't want it to just catch on fire as we're getting close to the good stuff. So the water is unfortunately on the other side over there, so I could either put the heater here, which would be the nicest. It'll just steal water from this area and go into here. So this is where the heater will be now. Where did I put that? Oh, here. Okay. And we'll need a pump system as well. As such, this is out, and this is in. And if we put the heater somewhere here instead of down here, do I want to? Yeah, let's do that. My little box, my internal box is not helping at all right now, just because I'm trying to build something and now it's messing with it. But hopefully that is enough space. And I know you guys aren't watching just to watch me delete these stupid things, but rather to learn the process, so hopefully we will be there soon. Okay. What I did like is that I hid the parts of the system fairly well, and I'm just going to recycle that exact same pipe system that I have here. Maybe one heater is not enough. That's something else to consider. But we saw that it got up a fairly high temperature, so maybe it is enough. I don't know. We'll find out. But here we have this. Make it in line with that. Okay. That should work. Now our heater's inside this chamber. Now I do want the actual radiator to be here as well, so the radiator will be part of the system, meaning we have the flow. There we go. Okay. This is defined as fluid B, fluid A, so that really doesn't matter, but I want it to go sequentially through this system. So I guess even if I put this like that, that may be better. Okay. So it's cycling the water with the pump. Okay. We need to drop this and we need to drop that. Okay. We'll drop this down. So now that goes directly in. Nope. Oh my goodness, man. Let's do that. Okay. That's perfect. So this is going right into this part of the radiator, which in turn goes directly into the box. And then this part here is leaving it. Do we have coolant in and out on this thing? Because it may have to be out port. Okay, so we do have to be careful. It's not just fluid A and B. Okay, so this pump is pumping, sucking in. Oops. Okay, this is fluid in. So fluid's coming in, entering the radiator right here, making its way through the radiator in here. So this would be in on the device, whereas here we're getting out. So we have to rotate this heater. Now that should be our fluid in. Fantastic. Okay, fluid in, and that's fluid out, and it goes up there through this pipe here and back in there. So that should hopefully work. I'll take another one of these for the actual temperature of the radiator, and I will give it power and make sure that it turns on once we press this button. Now the tricky thing that I don't, oh, and that button there. So the button that I have here controls the pumping of the coolant. So what I was going to say is the process, and that's using taking our water from here, which is fine. Assuming this is water. Yes, it is. Okay. That's cycling through the system. What I don't like about the fact we can't spawn the... Well, so far I haven't been able to spawn the crude oil. I would love if the spawner itself could select crude so we could test it out without having to, but it doesn't. So we have to go through and collect a bunch of it and then see if our process is working right or not. Anyway, let's close off this area to try to create ourselves, or close off the volume. And down here, pretty much all this can be closed off except for that thermometer. But yeah, I have to collect enough crude to even do the test, and if we're wrong, we have to collect it all over again, do the test all over again. So a little less than ideal, but in the end we'll get there. I have faith. Okay, what's up here? Nothing. Okay, so that means the volume that we have of this space should be fairly small. It's just concentrated to this and these areas. Okay, let's give that a go and see if it works. Hopefully we connected everything. Also, I know I keep making a bunch of mistakes as I keep talking, but it's not my forte to talk and do things at the same time. Even oh yeah, it's going up now. Okay, so everything has to be clamped. That was the problem. Now, but down here, this is one of our thermometers, this is another, and this is another. I believe this one is for the actual radiator. This one's for the heat or the furnace, and this one's for the actual space within. So if we turn this on, the actual space is not climbing, whereas these ones are. And this is increasing, obviously. So this is only increasing very slowly. My little thermometer inside. That one. Very slowly. Whereas this is going off the hook, so... And our coolant is lower, so at least the process, or the act of using this ton of water is actually slowing down our radiator heat, which makes sense. This is super high, and this is only going up very slowly. Now that is also realistic in a way, so what we can do is leave this and get back to it shortly. So I'm just going to leave the game to pump and heat, and I will get back to you when there's updates. But what I am guessing from this is that we need to have more than one of those furnaces, because if this is how fast, like this is increasing, that's not fast enough. So if I put, say, 4 of them to do the same thing, that will speed things up, I hope. So let's try that actually. I've put 3 of them, all connected to the water. So now I will give it a shot to see if it heats up any faster. And regardless, I will leave it and let it just run its course at this point and see if the distillation works. If the distillation works, I'll say it's a success and start to clean up the base, make it look cool and all that stuff that I can't wait to do. But until then, let's just see that this works properly. It's still rising, only incrementally. So I don't know if having more of them actually sped anything up, but it'll be a long time before this gets to 300 degrees. So yeah, stay tuned. It's been over 2 hours and we're still not even at 120. As you can see, it's slowed down substantially, the temperature climb. So I'm not quite sure what is the solution to this, how we can combat this. At this rate, I mean, it slowed down so much that at this rate I don't see that this is going to reach 300 degrees ever. So we're going to leave it at this for this video. Let me know if you have any comments or if you have a better solution to how to distill the crude oil. And I hope you enjoyed the video.